Hey everybody, come follow me time. Yay. So honestly, a yay this week. This is a really, really good week. We're in John and I love John for so many different reasons. I don't want to say he's my favourite because I think they kind of all are, but I love the way he writes because he writes so very, like just as it is. Like there's no, and you say, well, hang on a minute. He wrote Revelation and that's not just as it is. And I was like, yeah, but he tells it as it is. So he might use a really descriptive way in saying it, but he doesn't mince words, if you know what I mean. Like he really will just tell you. So I kind of love reading him because I love that straightforwardness that like, this is the deal. There's, no gray areas here. Yeah, I kind of like how he eliminates a lot of just fluff, maybe? No, not that the other's fluff. No, that's the wrong word. But you know what I mean. Like, he's just straight in there with it, and I kind of like that. Whereas, a lot of people aren't prepared for that when they read scripture. They're like, oh, well, that's quite harsh. And when you read John, you might feel that yourself. And there's nothing wrong with it. Because when I first read it, I'm like, oh, that is harsh. And then you can sort of get to know how he writes. So anyway, I love that we're in John this week. So it's John chapters 7 through 10. I've just spent a whole minute telling you I love John. Anyway, there we go. John 7 through 10. And it's all about how Jesus is our good shepherd. And I think that's what this week is entitled, as a good shepherd. So we're going to start off in chapter 7, verses 14 to 17. So at this point in time, there's a lot of people sort of like talking to him like, oh, some say you're this, some say you're someone else, some say that you're John the Baptist. But then that doesn't work because he died and you're still here. Are you a prophet? Are you, like, they're still having this conversation, isn't it? Who are you? And at this point, some of them, actually a lot of them, are just not sure. And of course, he's still going about doing these wonderful works and miracles, and they're really odd. And like the things he's saying, and they're just like, who are you? Like, tell us. So in 14 to 17, let's read that. It says, now about the midst of the feast, Jesus went up to the temple and taught, and the Jews marveled, saying, how knoweth this man letters, having never learned? Because he never went to school. So they're like, how does he know, like, how to speak like this? And how does he know how to read in that? Because, like, he never went to school, so no one taught him this. Jesus answered them and said, my doctrine is not mine, but his that sent me. Which to them is like, what? To us it's like, well, he didn't need to read the gospel. It's his gospel, right? He gave it. He knows it. In 17, if any man will do his will, he shall know of the doctrine, whether it be of God or whether I speak of myself. So then he goes on to talk about how Moses gave some of the law and that they didn't want to kill him, but they keep wanting to go about killing Jesus. Then he says, like, I've done all these things and you're still like not getting it. And what he's inviting them to do, and specifically you see this in verse 17, is have your own experience with it. And that's the same thing we do today when we're teaching anyone about the gospel, especially existing church members. If there's something there that you're not sure about, have your own experience with it. So if any man will do his will, so learn the gospel by living the gospel. He shall know of the doctrine, whether it be of God or whether I speak of myself. So it's like, is this of God or is this just of that person who's talking? That's what he's saying to them. And they keep saying, well, who are you? Who are you? And he's like, I've told you, I've shown you. Like, I don't, because I'll say, well, who are you? He's like, I am who I am, and they're like, they don't get it because they're just not seeing it. And we'll talk more about spiritual blindness a bit later on because there's a really good story in here that illustrates that perfectly well. But yeah, living the teachings of Jesus, you will come to know of their truth. You have to live the gospel to know the gospel, to have a testimony of the gospel. It does not work any other way. You can know a little bit about it and have like a testimony, like, a little bit. But unless you're living it, it's just not going to work. You're not going to see the whole thing. So teaching in the temple, they wondered how he knew so much without any education. Like, who is this guy? Jesus taught a different way of knowing truth, one available to all despite your educational opportunities. Live it, do it, and gain a knowledge through the living of it. As in, like, learn on the job, right? Just learn as you go. That's how you do it. So no book smarts required here. Truly experiment on the word, and that's what we call it, was experiment on the word. Here's the words, live them, see how it affects your life, see how it enhances your life, but you've got to throw yourself, and like, you might really try and do that and it's still not sticking because it doesn't just happen. And there's other things you're going to have on, and like look at your expectations in there. I've seen people go, well, I lived the gospel for 3 months, all in, and nothing changed. And I was like, well, I saw changes in you, so maybe you were expecting something else. Or like while their actions are in it, their heart's not completely in it. There's something still tugging at them. So it's not something you can just jump in and suddenly it's all good. It's something that you need to work on and like layer and layer on and deepness and more and more and more, and then you'll see it. So like pick one thing first, live that. Like say pick tithing or pick scripture study or pick prayer. One of those things, and like live it to know it and to gain a testimony of it. That's how it works. So if you're not feeling something at the moment, like maybe General Conference happened and you're like not a big fan of that. Maybe you're like, oh, I've watched some of them, but like, do we have to watch all of it? Because honestly, I used to be like that, and now I love it because I lived it by watching all of it. And although I love all of it, not all of the talks are for me. Some of them are like, well, that's really nice and that's a really good message, but there's no depth in it for me because there's other things for me, and that's what's so great about it is that there's something in there for everyone. Whoever you are or wherever you come from, there's something in there that you're going to like, but you don't do that without experimenting on it and actually bringing it into your life in that kind of way and really giving it an honest go and doing it repeatedly, that you'll grow that love for it. So yeah, how can we do this? How does this process help develop your knowing? By doing it. Just gave you examples. So Elder Rasband, he said, as you faithfully live the gospel of Jesus Christ and abide by its teachings, your testimony will be protected and it will grow. So it's only by doing that you get to learn. It's a learning on the job. It's what it is. So, you want to know who Christ is? Learn on the job. He's told you, go live his gospel. Live what he teaches. See how it works for you. Remember, it's not going to happen immediately. It's something that's still going to happen for the rest of our mortal lives. Maybe even a bit beyond that for most of us. Just learning a little bit by little bit. But you get enough in for there and you're like, actually, this is really good. This is not what people were telling me. This is actually really good for me. So yeah, give it a go. All right, there. Hang around. We're going to go over to chapter 8 and have a chat about what happens there. I'll see you then.